So, I'm a wife, a mostly full-time physical therapist, and my husband and I are also photographers, and we own a wedding videography business on the side.
My name is Ali, and I'm a wife and mother of two boys, ages 4 and 6. And I just quit teaching after 8 years teaching art, so I'm a recovering art teacher. I just felt like God was putting it on my heart to put my family first, and so this is a whole new thing for me, and I think once August starts, I'm going to see what that really is going to look like.
I was and am a planner. I say it that way because I definitely still am, but I'm reformed. I had my whole life planned for as long as I can remember. I would go off to college and meet Mr. Right. We would get married after graduation. We would have babies. I would stay home. We'd have a KitchenAid mixer and a porch swing and a really happy life. And this was before I even listened to country music. I grew up in a Christian home. We went to church every Sunday and read stories, listened to Adventures in Honesty, and talked about God around the dinner table. I accepted Christ when I was 5 years old. We were reading one night, and I remember asking my mom that if Jesus was real, and I believed that God died, that he was God, and that he died for my sins, could I ask him in my heart? I thought I had an eclectic childhood. We lived in a couple different cities in Texas before my dad's job moved us to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in the 7th grade. I was homeschooled until 7th grade, and then went to a tiny Christian school when we moved and went to public high school. By Thanksgiving of my freshman year of college, it was pretty clear that we were moving back to Texas. I started my sophomore year at Texas State, finished, and moved to Fort Worth for PT school in 2010. I never really got involved in college with a church or college ministry on campus, and I would like to tell you that there weren't many options, but I honestly wouldn't know. On the weekends that I went home, I went to church with my parents. My friends knew that I was a believer, and we would have conversations about who Jesus was and what he did, but honestly not much was different about our lives. I had a lot of knowledge about God, but I had a really limited understanding of him and how he wanted to be involved in my life. I knew the stories of the Bible and what I thought it looked like to be a believer. You go to church, you do devotionals, you're a good person, and you don't sin. But I didn't really understand a relationship with Christ. I absolutely believed that he was alive and active. I could see how he was in control of big stuff, like our moves, my dad's cancer, my major in college, and getting into PT school. Even though things hadn't gone exactly like I thought, I just adjusted as necessary and got right back on planning my next steps. Honestly, I just assumed that God had more important things to do with his time. He made me after all, so I figured, hey, I'm able, I'm capable, and I have a plan. I didn't need to bug him with the day-to-day things.
I've been coming to McKinney for about 5 years now. I'm not originally from Texas. I married a Texan, so now this is my home. I was born in California. My father is from Cuba, and he's an artist, and my mother was from New Jersey. And I grew up just going back and forth between them, living in California, New Jersey, and some other states I'll tell you about. My father dabbled in Buddhism for a little bit, a minute, while my mom was always searching spiritually. So we went to the Hare Krishna temple, and I went to Catholic school and a Ukrainian Catholic school, and then we went to Baptist church, Pentecostal church, Methodist, and we even had the Mormon missionaries come over from time to time. And my mom always talked about a higher power, and she was spiritual, and I just grew up thinking of a higher power that was way on high, up high. And after 13 different schools, and living in California, New Jersey, Utah, Florida, upstate New York, Colorado, I, at 2 points in my life, lived in a shelter. And I decided to make a life for myself. At the age of 17, I joined the Air Force. And at that time, I didn't know that God was leading me, and he was with me, sheltering me my whole life. And in Hawaii, that's where I was stationed, another blessing, I met my husband. I was in the Air Force and he was in the Marines. And then 6 months after we got married, my sister came to live with us. And she was a senior in high school. She just needed to finish up her last 6 months, I guess. And then after I got out of the service, we came to move to Texas, and this is where my husband's family is from, and my sister stayed in Hawaii. And shortly after living here, it was about probably a year, my brother came to live with us, and he was 14, and in starting out in high school. And so 3.5 years he lived with us, and I was working at a boarding school, so he was with us on the weekends and the summers, and I worked with him the whole time. And so having 2 teenagers during our marriage was birth control. And it was 10 years that we were married before we had our own son, our firstborn son. And I remember laying in bed, seeing Kevin across the room, across the house, in the living room, sitting on the couch, and seeing the physical distance between us, that I felt the physical distance between us. And I prayed, Lord, please help us. And it was the week of our 13-year anniversary that my husband said he no longer loved me. And it was just 2 months after my second son was born, and the whole ground beneath me slipped. My whole foundation crumbled. And he moved in with his mom, and she supported his decision. He wasn't working at the time. He was going through nursing school, and he was 6 months into the nursing program. And my family is not here. I'm not from Texas, so I had to learn how to be a single mom. As a family, we were coming to McKinney for about a year when all this happened. And at the beginning, I didn't really know, we weren't in a community group. And so I didn't really have community and connections with people. And so I saw McKinney was having divorce care class, and so I jumped on that, and I realized we weren't going through a divorce. We just separated, and we weren't talking about lawyers. Counseling was failing, and it just didn't feel like the right place for me. So I connected with Sherry, and Sherry got me connected with a community group, a women's community group, and in touch with a counselor. And the love and support and prayers that I got from the community group really helped me to move forward. And we did Bible studies, and I had never done that before. And I had learned about community and what it meant for people to pray for me. And even though I was baptized and confirmed in the Methodist church when I was 13 years old, I didn't know the Bible, and I didn't really have a relationship with Jesus. I didn't know the Bible was God's words that echoed throughout the millennia as words that have value and meaning today. I really thought it was a book written by a bunch of old guys, edited over the years, and not really relevant to our day and age. I hadn't memorized a single verse. And then this happened, and I learned how to pray. And I remember even asking a person, like, can I pray anytime? Like, you can hear me all the time? Like, I used to just pray at night when I was going to bed, and I'm like, do I have to put my hands together for it to count? And I just remember feeling that. And we were separated for a year, and still things weren't moving, and nothing was happening. So I was starting to lose hope. We were on the verge of divorce. We went through mediation. I didn't want to go through lawyers, and I thought it was over. And I started to pray for a friend. Didn't know the friend was going to be female. I was praying for someone to hang around, maybe mow my lawn. Someone to be there for me.
So back to how I got to Fort Worth. I moved here in 2010 for PT school and decided that I really needed to be an adult and find a church. After some bouncing, I landed here at McKinney and even got involved with a singles group for a while. And then my last year of PT school, I met someone and we had a lot in common. We went to church every Sunday and I was really happy. In May of 2013, after I graduated, he talked to my parents about our future. This was it. It was going to happen. It was what I had been waiting for. And then in October of that year, he told me that he might still have feelings for his ex-girlfriend and that he needed some time to figure it out. I was horrified. My head was spinning. I knew that we needed community now. I knew that we needed some people that we could talk to and just get this figured out because this wasn't supposed to be happening. He wasn't interested in community, but I jumped in anyways. And I got plugged into this group for women of all ages. I met so many wonderful women, including Ali. And honestly, this group seemed to be pretty safe from the very beginning. I listened to other women share their lives and their prayer requests, and I remember Ali always being brutally honest about what she was going through, how she was struggling, and she just really seemed to be able to lay her hot mess on the table. I would talk vaguely about my prayer request each week, but I honestly didn't open up a whole lot. At that point, he and I were going back and forth between, I love you, but I think I still have feelings for her. I think we need some time apart, but I think I still love you. And it was just really messy and ugly, and it just felt like a whole lot to lay on these ladies. I was in the Word and honestly praying and pursuing Christ more than I ever had at that point. Then, in December, I found out from a mutual friend that he was sleeping with her, his ex, and my world blew up. Thank God it was in a day of community group. I knew I was in over my head, and then I finally needed to let some people in on what was going on. I opened up some more in group, and then Ali stayed after to listen, be a listening ear, and just to pray with me. We started hanging out a whole lot more after that. We would pray together and for each other often. And then on December 24th of 2013, we started a 10-week devotional on prayer. The difference in this over anything that we had done before was 4 simple words. Your will be done. We prayed that daily. As I was praying, God, I'm on my knees begging you for this. But Lord, your will here, not mine. I want what you want, whatever that is.
And I wasn't quite there. I was praying, Lord, help me want your will, because I knew God's will was for reconciliation. And I just didn't see how that was possible. And I wasn't sure I wanted that. I didn't want God's will at that point. And I struggled with waiting, because it had been a year and nothing seemed to be happening. Even though I felt in my heart that it was God's plan for us to be together, having waited this long, it just didn't seem possible at this point.
I was waiting too. This outcome just didn't seem to fit my expectations. I knew God was calling me to wait on him, and I thought the him God was calling me to wait on was this guy, and what I realize now is that God was calling me to wait on himself. So in this waiting, one day it hits me that here's Ali working full-time, a single mom, to 2 boys. She needs help. I don't think I even offered. I think I just told you, if you split the grocery bill with me, or you're gonna split the grocery bill with me, and I'm gonna cook and go grocery shopping for us. And all of a sudden it was this thing. This was our new normal, our new routine. I went to work and worked out and took dinner every night. We would eat, and she would start baths while I cleaned up, and then after we got the boys together, we would sit in her living room and drink tea on our sofa. We would share our lives. We shared our stories and all the nitty-gritty of what exactly had brought us to this point that we were in right now.
And Hazel became not just a friend, but an answer to prayer. She was the friend that I was really praying for, even though she never mowed my lawn.
It was January.
As a single mom, I needed help. Kevin was involved, but minimally due to his nursing school program. It was intense. And I was on a diet of mac and cheese and chicken nuggets. And her meals were the first time I heard of and tasted paleo food. And here I was, this 34-year-old mom, single mom with 2 boys and failed marriage, and she was this 24-year-old fit CrossFitter and that could help me move furniture. We looked so different on paper. We never bumped into each other at church prior to this or anywhere in town for that matter. And our lives just shouldn't have crossed paths in any other place except that God really just put us together.
As we talked about our histories and growing up and such, it became more apparent how different we were. I mean, you just heard that, really different, right? And we both knew that at this point in our stories, we had gone through some similar experiences and now intersected for this period of mourning and waiting. I was mourning the loss of the life that I'd imagined.
And I was mourning the impending end of my marriage. We started reading Priscilla Schreier's book, God is Able, and we found hope. And this book breaks down Ephesians 3:20 through 21, a whole book on these 2 verses. Now to him who is able to do exceeding abundantly beyond all that we can ask or imagine, according to the power that is at work within us. To him be the glory and the honor in Christ Jesus throughout all generations forever and ever.
We really started to understand at this point, not only God, your will be done, but also, God, you are capable of anything. And that if our circumstance and expectations are here, you are going to blow that out of the water. And if it's not out of the water yet, the story is not over yet.
And I felt like if God resurrected Christ to show us how much he loved us, then he absolutely had the power to resurrect my marriage. And I had to look to Christ to do it, and not to Kevin, who wasn't doing anything. And in January, there was a parent dedication here at McKinney, and I heard Chris not only pray for the child, but for the parents. And he prayed for the parents to be the loving image of God in the house, so that the children will grow up to know what love is. And I bawled my eyes out, remembering and thinking that that was exactly what I wanted. I wanted my family. I wanted us to be a family. And I called Hazel.
I saw the flip switch. God changed her heart in 1 second. All of a sudden, it wasn't just knowing that God has called her to this. All of a sudden, she wanted it to happen too. A deep desire that God placed in her heart, and she wanted it too.
So I told Kevin how I felt and what had happened at church, the parent dedication, the whole story. And he was quiet. He didn't have much to say. No real reaction that I can note that he was moved at all. So it kind of just got left at that. And at that point, the 30-day wait period was over. We just had to schedule a court date to get our divorce finalized. But neither of us mentioned it. We didn't talk about it. We didn't ask each other, so what's happening? We just didn't talk about it.
I started attending Tuesday Morning for Women, and at that point I knew that I was clinging to Jesus and that I needed a whole lot of him. The series we studied was 7 by Jen Hatmaker, and it's about fasting over 7 different areas of your life. I came back and told Ali about it, and she laughed and really just thought it was really silly.
I flat out thought it was stupid. Why would someone fast from food? Food is good. You're supposed to eat it. And at that time, our community group was doing a study on Genesis 25, and with the story about Jacob and Esau. Esau had given his inheritance to his brother, Jacob, in exchange for a bowl of lentil soup. Esau came back from hunting and he was hungry. And after reading this, I decided that I was hungrier for what God had planned for me than any mediocre choices and rushing through whatever I thought was my plan that I could make. And so I told Hazel that I thought we should fast. And we talked about what we would fast, and we chose sugar because I found myself reaching for chocolate after chocolate and still not feeling satisfied. And like it wasn't what I was craving. And I couldn't decide what I was craving, but if chocolate was my bowl of lentil soup, then I wasn't having it. I wasn't going to sell out or rush just to get this limbo over with, that I was waiting on God's plan and waiting.
I knew that this idea of fasting was from God because she had literally laughed me out of the room 2 weeks ago when I first mentioned it. And so we did, and we went into this period of waiting again. Waiting on God for what he was going to do, how he was going to move, and how he was really going to put the pieces of our lives back together. We agreed to do 7 days in the beginning, I think mostly because that was what my other study was doing, and we really just needed a jumping off point. We were reading in our devotional about Moses and those dang Israelites. In Exodus, it talks about how they were in the desert for 40 years, and then they grumbled, and they grumbled some more, and they struggled to remain faithful to God's commands, but he continued to remain faithful to them.
And then we looked into it, and we also realized that Christ had fasted in the desert for 40 days. And so it was settled, 40 days without sugar. It was really hard. It was the first time I had ever fasted. And it meant no chocolate, and it meant no wine. No wine before bed when the boys really need to go to bed. And it was just, I learned that even the last week we kicked it up a notch because we turned fruit into our sugar. And last week we decided to cut that out too because that was our new dessert. And I learned that there's sugar in ketchup.
In those 40 days, we really did learn what it meant to be relying on God. We found a peace about our situation and circumstances that surpassed understanding and certainly didn't match what the world was telling us how to feel. It could only be explained as God's peace. We also found hope and joy.
God had showed us what to be hopeful for. One day, Hazel and I came to church and we sat down, and after us came in two young couples, one blonde, one brunette, and they sat down right in front of us. We didn't know them, but we looked at each other and without words instantly knew that God was showing us in our future.
I don't know how else to describe it at this point. We were gaining momentum. We were on a roll. We had had a posture change, and all of a sudden we were really excited and expectantly waiting on the awesome things that God could do, because he's able to do exceeding abundantly beyond all that we could think or imagine. And we did it. We finished the 40 days totally relying on God. We saw that he had a plan, that it didn't look like what we thought it would, but we found that his ways are better and that he is best.
And after the fast, throughout it all, I kind of just wanted God to magically put things back together, but I didn't realize that he was doing that through me. And there was a day that I just felt empowered, that God had empowered me to go over and confront Kevin. The waiting time was over, and I was never good at confrontation, but I went to Kevin and I explained how I felt that it was God's plan for us to be together, and that I forgave him, that I forgive him. And that forgiveness was not from me. That was through me. God was forgiving him through me, because that couldn't have come just from me. Through this time, Kevin had seen such a change in me. He was the one that brought us to McKinney and was encouraging us to have more faith in our house. And during that time of our separation, he felt God was mad at him because God was there for me. It didn't seem like God was there for him. And him seeing me change and him seeing me still want to work things out, we instantly were just on the right path together. And at that moment, it just was like the flip switch. And it still took another month for Kevin to move back into our home, and it still wasn't easy. And I remember early on questioning whether this was real, if this was gonna last. I'd already been hurt before. Is this for real? And I got a letter in the mail from McKinney, and it was a prayer card, little purple card with all these boxes. In the boxes were dates and signatures of who prayed for me over the year and a half of this time. And I cried knowing that God was reminding me that he was still in charge. He was still taking care of us. There were people praying for us the whole time, and this is for real. He was still in control, and God was rebuilding us.
I saw it. I bore witness to God fixing a 13-year marriage that endured a 1.5-year separation. Okay, God, you are so good in that. If you can do this, you can certainly fix my relationship, and you can make us whole again. So I waited some more, and Ali and I wondered, when is it going to happen? When is it going to be my turn? When is there going to be a knock on my door, and this is going to be over for me too? And about 2 weeks later, after a particularly tough day, I cried out to God, yelling at him, wondering, what about me? I did what you asked. I've been faithful. I fully trust and know that you are able. What about me? And I had this overwhelming feeling in my spirit tell me, yes, I am able, and I'm good no matter what. And I think at that point, this weight fell off me. The rain cloud lifted and the chains were gone. I had been trying so hard to stuff and cram and squeeze in what I thought should go in each place of my life, instead of filling it with God and letting him line up the pieces the way he wanted to. And all of a sudden, it really was your will, God, not mine. I had been praying that, not to change God's mind about anything, but to change my heart about it all.
And I remember seeing a piece about you, like you were content, and knowing that God was going to take care of you. Even though God had taken care of me after the end of the fast, we were expecting something to happen for both of us. And even though it didn't happen the way you thought it was going to happen, we just knew that God was able, and God is able.
So, I, like 3-4 months after that, not very long after that, we both volunteered for Explosion, which is our vacation Bible school here at McKinney. Took a week off of work and volunteered for that, had a great time, had a lot of fun, and then after that I just felt God like pulling on my heart to, hey, you need to volunteer for Stampede. And for those of you that don't go to McKinney and don't know what that is, Stampede is a week-long event for middle school and high schoolers. It's a time to worship and hear the word, and similar to Vacation Bible School, kind of, but it's obviously for older kids. So anyways, so I felt this pull that if you can take this week off of work, you can volunteer in the evening for Stampede. There's no reason you can't. And so I was like, well, okay, whatever, I'll just do this. And so I get the tough job of handing out popsicles. Somebody's got to do it. And I was standing in the lobby, like, holding a trash bag for them to put their sticks in before they go in to the auditorium for the sanctuary. And I was like dancing to the music and just having a good time. And this guy comes over to me and introduces himself and says, "Hey, I'm Jesse. I don't think I've met you yet." Like, "Hi, I'm Hazel." And then that was it that night. I guess the next day we talked a little bit more, and the next day we talked a smidge bit more. Turns out he works here, and that was how he was involved, and he worked with the youth, and so that was why he was there. Anyways, then he asked me at the end of the week. He asked me on a date, and I said, "Okay, give anybody a shot once. What am I missing out on, right?" And so I said, "Okay, yeah, let's do this." And we went out, and then it was different than it was with anybody else. He actively pursued me. I didn't do anything but just sit here and say, "Okay." Like, he chased after me, and 3 months after that, he proposed, and 3.5 months after that, I got married to him. So we've been married for like a year and a half, and almost a year and a half. And what I didn't know, obviously, is God was taking us through this situation was what he had down the road for me, and that the person that he had down the road for me really was going to be exceeding abundantly beyond all that I could think or imagine. Goodness that I didn't even know to ask for.
But you should mention about your parents and your grandparents.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So in this, we're real, right? So this morning I told this story, and that last little paragraph is what I finished with. And then we asked our question inside of the table. And then everybody's like, "But what happened? Who did you marry? And what happened?" So I was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I left with a cliffhanger." So I got back up here and told my story. So what's really special about that, and I mean, all of it was really special because I married a wonderful man, but my expectation of love was fast. This 1 year, 4 year, no, thank you. Not me, not what I wanted. My grandparents met and got married in the summer. My parents met and got married in 6 months, and that was my expectation of what love looks like, and I got blessed with that. Such a huge gift from God. Yeah. I said that like a year and a half, almost a year and a half, yeah.
I still have your wedding gift to give you.